Last time, we built out a small hillside neighborhood along with a non-functioning port. Today, the competition is officially over, and since the last episode, I've spent a lot of time with new developments and details. So let's jump right into my final submission for the competition. Alright, welcome back to Elba, Italy. Let's start off with Rosewood, and I apologize to everyone who submitted names. I was in such a time crunch by the end of the competition that I didn't get to rename anything. Well, except for one thing, and we'll get to that later. Additionally, at the end of this video, I'll go over some questions that you probably have. Now, in this area, we're using the French water tower asset as a lighthouse, along with the sewage filtration too, but there doesn't seem to be enough workers. And actually, there's 0 out of 10 employees here, and that's probably because there's no road access. I really don't want to add any either. Then we have this nice little fire watch tower, and I figured adding it would just kind of complete the area, and I think it does. It felt kind of naked without it, and the gazebo would just seem too plain. And thank you to everyone who suggested the lighthouse. I had it initially planned in episode 1, but I honestly forgot about it, and I feel like this area wouldn't be complete without it. So thank you. You're probably seeing the cargo ships and wondering where they're coming from. Let's get to that in a second. Then right beside the hillside development, we have a new industrial area. I didn't want to go too hard with the industry, so I kept it fairly simple and straightforward, trying to focus mainly on warehouses. But also at the same time, our unemployment was ridiculous. It was at 50%. And a great way to improve unemployment is by adding city services. So we have road maintenance, an extra garage for our buses, and a park maintenance facility. Really, my goal here was to add these in a natural way, especially the road maintenance, because that's what I added in first. I wanted it to feel like it was maybe a part of the port area. What's really unfortunate is that I couldn't maximize the space used in this area, as I was building all of this at 9 a.m. in the morning on Monday. Another unfortunate thing is the smokestacks. Even when I permanently deleted them with Better Bulldozer, they seem to come back on reload, which really ruins the specific look I was going for, but it's fine. Not everything is going to be perfect. Now, speaking of everything not being perfect, we have our tiny little port that I threw together in about 30 minutes. This is probably the decision that I regret the most, or at least the execution of it. I added a cargo line connection similar to our fake passenger port to give it the appearance of functioning. Really, I just didn't want to place the massive cargo port, and what we ended up with was something smaller, more streamlined, and in terms of size, a bit more realistic. Although I wish I had more time to spend on this because it bugs me to this day. But still, there are a lot of things that I like about it. I tried to make each building feel a bit worn in, added the trucks into the bays to give a presence of being alive. I tried to add in a bunch of assets like piles of metal, barrels, and wood to give a sense of what we'd either be importing or exporting, and I probably should have done a bit more research. The barrels to me are wine of some sorts. For some reason, the quay wall was really fighting with me, which is why the cargo containers are just sinking into the ground. No matter the landscaping or using Move It, it just didn't want to stay flat. Even though this is my least favorite cargo port I've ever built, for the time spent building it, I can feel happy about it. For the rest of the area, starting with our firehouse, I figured it would be important to have one in our industrial area. Plus, this could be the fire station that serves the surrounding areas. I also imagined the rest of the industrial is where most of our cargo is either coming in or out, and then being shipped throughout the island. Which is why there's a bunch of trucks in the bays of the warehouses, as if they're collecting the cargo in the back and getting ready to go deliver it. They're pretty much littered throughout this area. Overall, for spending about a total of an hour here, I'm pretty happy with it. Now let's transition to our next area. And that area is Primrose. It was a very difficult area. My goal here was essentially making it the central place for all of our tourism. If you're a tourist, you're probably over here, or at least somewhere near here. When I was first building this area out, I was really hoping it would feel cramped, kind of tightly packed together, but because I was limiting myself on the assets, I don't think I achieved that look whatsoever. To me, it almost feels like a very neat, very proper area, which is the opposite of what I was going for. This area is mainly filled with commercial, a tiny mix of Eastern European housing, and an elementary school add-on that really fit the area. And finally, there's the big giant oceanarium. I believe it's called that. The oceanarium was the most jarring add to me. It almost feels a bit too big and grand, but I couldn't find any buildings that really gave me the look I was going for, so I just kind of decided to accept it and move on. If you didn't like my last vineyard, I have a feeling you might like this one. I was initially planning to put one of the Mediterranean schools here, mostly because I think they look nice and they would have fit really well with the area, but I decided to go with a vineyard. That way I wouldn't have to terraform a big flat chunk of land in order to place the school down. And honestly, I think it was the better choice. I tried plopping it, and when I looked at it, I'm like, this is just not it. With our highway so close, it feels like we're just doing a bit too much terraforming. Anyways, suffice to say that I think this vineyard turned out much better than the other one, and that's because I used the mulch asset instead. So the mulch goes underneath it, and the green grass just stays around it, and it works perfectly. From the ground view, I love the way it feels, but dislike how there's no one walking around. I mean, there's a few people from time to time, but I would have loved to see this area jam-packed. And if we had access to the Ploppable Citizens mod, I definitely would have plopped a bunch of people all over here. As I'm making my way through here, I feel like I added just a bit too much lighting. It's very plentiful to say the least. And as we get towards the end, I see this as maybe some sort of festival area. So maybe during specific times of the year, there's events here. I also added these game machines to make it feel like this place is a bit more than it is. It's not just a commercial center. This is somewhere you can actually come and hang out and do stuff. We also got this nice pedestrian bridge. It isn't perfect, but it works. It links over to our more upscale hotels, if you can call them that. They have a problem where they have dead people stuck inside of them, and no matter what I do, I wasn't able to fix it. Then finally in this area are the upscale hotels. I wanted these to feel a bit big and grand, but also tame at the same time, if that even makes sense. I didn't get to detail this area the way I would have liked to, so I just spammed some trees and our big beautiful parking lot, which surprisingly is constantly full all the time. I assumed there would be some use, but not this much use. And I made it a bit curvy just by following the contour lines. I added some gravel paths all around the area. If you're staying at the hotel, there's a few parks to hang out in, either play tennis or look at the beautiful view of the water. There's definitely a lot of things to do here, and overall, even though I didn't stick to the vision that I wanted to get with this area, I think I am happy with it. There was a lot of individual detailing that went in. The Primrose main commercial area was probably at least 3 or 4 hours by itself. Now over here, I wanted to make our biggest farm area yet. This is where a large majority of our food is coming from, either in wheat or livestock or whatever it may be. When I was placing the farms, I had so many buildings placed and it looked awful. No matter how hard I tried to landscape or detail, it just looked like someone took a big bite out of the mountain. And even with terracing, it just felt like a waste of space. So instead, I built non-functioning farms, and this just came out so much better. I used the agricultural surface for the farms, then at random used the black transparency surface to have them look different. It's not really revolutionary in any way, but I do think it came out much nicer than what it was before. I also added fences, and did this in a few other places around the map, including one of my favorite areas in the entire build, which we'll get to soon. Before the competition ended, I wanted to make sure I developed this area no matter what, even if it was just a little bit. I didn't get to polish it the way I would have wanted to, similar to other areas in this build. Thankfully, this was a low density area, so I didn't have to worry too much about getting super specific into details. One of the things I regret though, or the thing that I wish I did better, was the landscaping. This is one of those areas that needed a bunch of it to help make it pop, and I just sprayed it all throughout. I tried to vary it up between different areas, either by having different trees or bushes, but still, I wish I would have went just a bit lighter or had been a bit more intentional. With that said, I still do like the way this came out. It almost feels like a bowl, I guess. And I honestly wouldn't mind living in any of these houses, because I tried to keep most of these areas connected the best way I could. That way there also wasn't any issues with services like fire, police, or ambulances. And then on the left side of this area, you can see the same pattern, except there's a school and a fire station. The fire station is on top of that hill, and I placed it and completely forgot about it. There isn't a single detail around it, and that hurts, but it's okay. I'm glad it was this building and not something else, because I feel like it can kind of stand up on its own. Towards the end, we have Napoleon Hill, and this was inspired by a comment. So these are all mansions, essentially all signature buildings in the low residential category, and I tried to make it feel a bit more private by putting them on top of a hill, surrounding it with landscaping, and they have a direct view of the water, so I mean, I'm pretty jealous. Overall, I'm pretty happy with this area, but now let's take a trip back to the first area we ever developed, Now, welcome to my favorite area in the entire build. I didn't like it for the longest time. It felt sort of placed compared to everything else, but after adding the beach and the farms by that small little river water type thing, it became beautiful. And I just love the way this feels and looks. From the very start, I knew I wanted to place farms here, but I was a bit scared of how it would turn out during the execution phase. And I actually did try to see if one of the buildings would fit, but those farm buildings are way too big. They're not going to fit. Anyways, so I figured that I would do this at a later time, probably before the end of the build. And for me personally, it's a home run now. It ties everything about this area together, and it still feels like Elba. I mean, the only thing I might be worried about is all the pollution from the traffic, but sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. But it looks perfect to me. I can't get over how much I love this, and it's not even something crazy or complex. It's just something super simple that ties everything together. Then of course we have our church or temple, which is just an add-on that I believe I took from the cemetery using Find It. If I recall correctly, they're supposed to be at the highest points. So we have two on the map. This one is at the top of this hill in this area, and another one out by the hotels. And I believe the one by the hotels is the building that's actually at the highest point in the entire map, aside from Elbacom, which is our telecom services. And then I wanted to make sure we did some development at the top of these hills. There, again, wasn't as much as I'd like, but I was trying to deprioritize this area for the time that I had remaining, and I wish I did more. We have this little plot of area right here, and it's not too bad, but I still feel like we could have done more development on the hills above this area. And I talked a big game about adding wastewater treatment. In the end, I decided not to. I mean, technically we have it because the France water tower has the add-on to handle sewage as well, but really the idea here is that not everything is going to be perfect. Not everything is going to work the way that we want it to, and sometimes you have to make sacrifices. So I did a tiny bit of detailing in this area to emphasize that sacrifice, and it's a pretty big one considering one of our main attractions would be our waterfront. So hopefully the tourists don't come back here, and if they don't, we should be fine. But if they're in this area, they have a nice beautiful beach to come to. And this is actually the last thing that I did. I was rushing so hard. I'm like, okay, we need outhouses. We need somewhere for people to go to the bathroom. And I placed them down. I'm like, we need stalls. Where are people going to eat? Where are people going to grab drinks? I was rushing like crazy. There's some parks here. The beach is okay. I added in this path, which took way too long just to stretch out the surface. It was like 10 minutes, I think. But again, this is one of those areas that I think came out pretty well. I wish it was a bit more alive, and if we had ploppable citizens, I would plop them all over our beaches. And then last, and especially least, is our industrial area. I don't even want to show it off, but you can't just show off the good parts of a build. Sometimes you have to show off the bad parts as well. And really this area was thrown together as quickly as possible. I was trying to make sure we were taking care of our unemployment as much as we could, but also I didn't want to add in too much industry as I wanted it to be small. In this area, there's mostly 2x2s, there's a few warehouses, and I even plopped two of these signature office buildings, thinking that they could maybe be some type of administrative buildings for all of the industrial across the map, or maybe they deal with supply chain and cargo. For detailing, all I really did was make it feel a bit more dirty, and then left it to that. So that's really all of this area was. Elba itself as an island doesn't have your traditional manufacturing industrial. Now let's take a quick trip around the map, and then I'll answer some questions. So I'll leave these stats in the background for anyone curious, but the first question is, will Ashland be returning? Yes, so the next videos I will be putting out will be on Ashland. I cannot wait. I love Elba, but I need a break. Second question, will Elba be continuing? Also yes, I would really love to continue this series and maximize all of the development on the island. I still think there's lots of room not only for development, but also for improvements. With that said, I still need a bit of a break from Elba. This is essentially the culmination of 120 plus hours across the course of 2 weeks, and that is a lot. So I could see the series returning fairly soon, but after a break, finally, we have a quick cinematic to show all the befores and afters, and it's a big one. There is a lot of dramatic changes. And that's a wrap. It's been a busy last few days, but I had a lot of fun in this competition. If you aren't already, please like, subscribe, and comment, as it really does help with the algorithm. And as always, a big shout out to our Patreon members, Mihai B and Ganger. I'll see you in the next one.